Have you ever felt disappointed after spending a lot of time and pouring a lot of energy into building a battleship, but it just wasn't quite enough, not big enough or not detailed enough, simply because you ran out of complexity? If you've tried that, then I would like to introduce you to multipart battleships. Building a battleship, or any kind of ship, in multiple parts allows you to get much more detail and a lot more size into your build, overall making it more impressive. When getting started, what I always do and highly recommend is building some sort of frame. Just a quick, simple frame that lets you know how long it's going to be and how wide. That way giving you clear guidelines for how the build should be built and will look once it's done. This frame will of course vary depending on what ship you're making first of all, but secondly also what kind of scale you're making. Now, most people do either 1:3 scale or 1:4 scale, which is what I do as well and recommend. But if you're one of those absolute lunatics, you may even do a 1:2, and if you're crazy psycho, you may do a 1:1, but I can't recommend that. Right now I'm just building out the general shape of the front here. This is not super important for you to see, as this is not a this is how you exactly must do it kind of tutorial, more or less so a this is how you can do. So yeah, you may pay attention, but if not, then yeah, doesn't really matter. Right now the ship I'm basing it off of is like a modern frigate, so that's just, what I'm doing right now as an example. But of course, when you're doing for example, a World War II battleship, the shape here will change a lot. As you can see, I'm just filling out the entire deck right now with as few blocks as I can, because despite in theory having unlimited blocks and complexity, we still need to ration it a bit, because the game will definitely lag if this gets too much. But as you can see, I'm just shaping out the bottom of the ship. This is not something you have to do, since it will be underwater anyways. So it is, well, some people would call it wasted complexity. Personally, I've started doing it because it just gives a bit of depth to the build itself and just makes it more realistic, but that's really up to you. And trust me, I can't urge you enough to remember to switch on mirror mode as soon as you can, because it's a huge help, especially when building boats that are symmetric. But this part of the boat is always a bit hard, so if you don't get it right the first time, just don't beat yourself up over it. As you can see, I'm having to delete a ton of tries and fail attempts many times as well. But here I'm starting to add the buoyancy device. This will be our water line. Like, this is where the boat will sit on the water. So yeah, choose at what height you place down the buoyancy blocks with some thought. And then I'm just going to shape it out, but it's not really important, so we're just going to skip ahead. And now we have a floating boat, where I'm just going to add a very simple and purely for demonstration purposes of a turret with a simple large engines and a servo and a flag cannon. And trust me, it is both much easier and faster and less glitchy to connect two parts if it is a clean cut. So here you see me just making the cut as straight, as clean as I can. And now it's time to finally separate the two builds. So I'm just gonna mark where the first half ends, so that I know where to place my interlocking things. And I'm not really putting a whole lot of attention to this build, as it was just done purely for this tutorial. But I'm just making the width somewhat match the previous build, and also the buoyancy. They have to be at equal height. And now comes the infamous interlocking things that I mentioned earlier, which just consists of these 2x2 wedges and then a magnet, which has to be one block back, because that's just how magnet works. It's not straight where the magnet ends, it's one block forward that they connect, so it has to be like that. The wedges are there to guide the magnet so that it may hit where it's supposed to, so the build doesn't look crooked. On the other half, we will have wedges in the opposite direction, so that way they can smoothly interjoin. if that is even a word. So I'm just going to make room for the wedges, since they have to be 2 blocks in. And then they also have to match with the height on, height and location on the other part. So I have to move them up 2 here. And then have them, opposite facing, so that the 2 joints may interlink. And please do yourself a favor of assembling your builds with waves disabled, as it will be much, much easier. And remember to have them clean cut. So remove any out sticking pieces, so that you may very easily connect. Now all we need is a way to control the turret from the back part. That we will do with distance sensors on this half and then pistons on the other. So we just need 5. 2 for the servo, and then 2 for the large hinges, and 1 for the cannon itself. Then all you gotta do is grab your piston and have it placed at where it's supposed to be placed to face the distance sensor, and then input whatever control you want. So here I have left and then right, as it's the left and right piston on the left and right distance sensor, controlling left and right on the servo. And then of course the same for up and down, and lastly to shoot. On the distance sensors themselves, I had to change the sensor offset a bit up because it wasn't sensing the pistons correctly. But now it should work. And you can of course do this to either motors or torpedoes or whatever. But I think I have to show you that, because now you know how to make these things and you can kiss that tiny battleship goodbye. As I mentioned before, we now have theoretically unlimited complexity. So you can assemble your boats in as many parts as you like and have them be as big as you like. However, I do have to warn you that the game does not like these very big guys. That, you can see it obviously gets very grainy. Not super laggy, since the new update fixed that, but yeah, don't go too big. On the other hand, I am making a giant ass fucking aircraft carrier. So don't take my word for it and do whatever you will with this tutorial. Thanks for watching.